Most people think treadmills are modern exercise machines. Think again. The first treadmills weren't designed to burn calories, they were built to burn people out. Imagine a machine that forces someone to climb 14,000 feet in a single day, halfway up Everest, just to earn a meager meal. Now, fast forward 2 centuries, we pay $40 a month to do the exact same thing, often smiling while running nowhere. The only difference between a hamster wheel and a modern gym treadmill. One was designed for pets, the other for prisoners. Every step today echoes a grim history. Every drop of sweat is a silent nod to a device once used to break minds, bodies, and willpower. By the end of this video, you'll see why a machine we associate with health was originally an instrument of social control, and why its twisted past still resonates every time we jog in place. The origin: Sir William Cubitt and the grinding wind. It's 1818. Britain is wrestling with overcrowded prisons, rising petty crime, and a growing fear of idleness as a source of moral corruption. Jails are full. Guards are overworked. Society wants discipline without supervision. Enter Sir William Cubitt, a civil engineer with a grim yet ingenious idea. He invents a machine called the treadmill, sometimes nicknamed the grinding wind. The design is deceptively simple: a large wooden cylinder, tilted slightly, rotated by prisoners stepping endlessly on slats. Each step turns the wheel. The energy produced could grind grain, pump water, or drive basic machinery. But that was secondary. The real purpose? Punishment disguised as labor. Prisoners were forced to work 6 hours a day, 7 days a week, hour after hour, step after step. Exhaustion was guaranteed. Blisters, sore muscles, mental strain. Here's where the irony bites. Victorian reformers praised the treadmill as humane. Why? Because instead of beating prisoners, they could now turn them into walking engines of productivity, all while the public observed. Engravings from the era show prisoners climbing in perfect rows, stoic faces taut with effort. It looked orderly, efficient, even reformative. The treadmill was both labor and propaganda, a visual testament to societal control. By the mid-1820s, most major British prisons installed these devices, demonstrating that discipline could be mechanized, enforced, and displayed without guards lifting a hand. The reality of endless steps. Now, let's be clear. Treadmills rarely killed prisoners. That would defeat the point. Instead, they broke them in subtler ways. The monotony was relentless, one foot in front of the other. Hours and hours, silence, fatigue, mental strain, and every mistake or pause invited reprimand or extra labor. But here's the brilliance of the design. The treadmill didn't need whips or fists. It harnessed human endurance as punishment, extracting effort without intervention. In 1824, a prisoner could climb the equivalent of halfway up Everest every day, earning barely enough sustenance to survive. And yet, the treadmill was presented to the public as reform, productivity, and moral correction. Visitors to prisons were shown the spectacle of synchronized prisoners, all in perfect rhythm. The machines grinded, wheels turned, and grain or water moved. To the observer, it was efficiency incarnate. Behind the scenes, it was mental fatigue turned into control, a slow erosion of autonomy. The treadmill also created psychological terror. Humans are wired to resist monotony, to crave choice. The treadmill removed choice entirely, turning endurance into obedience. The treadmill was more than labor. It was theater. Prison officials lined visitors along galleries to watch prisoners climbing endlessly. The visual impact was undeniable. A row of human cogs moving in unison, a machine in motion. Engravings captured their stoicism, their rhythmic ascent, and the clever illusion of orderly reform. The public marveled at the spectacle, unaware that the treadmill extracted obedience through repetition, not reward. Today, we voluntarily pay to climb nowhere, under no threat for self-improvement, replicating the exact motions designed to punish centuries ago. Torture device becomes science. Now, here's where history gets fascinating. By the late 19th century, doctors noticed that the treadmill could be used to study human endurance safely. The same machine that once punished convicts was now employed to measure heart rates, breathing, and overall physical capacity. Early medical treadmills captured data about fatigue, cardiovascular health, and rehabilitation, transforming a punishment device into a scientific instrument. It's the ultimate twist. A device built to break people is repurposed to help people. And this transition happened surprisingly early in the timeline, far sooner than many would expect. From science to fitness, medical treadmills were initially used in hospitals and research labs. Doctors carefully monitored patients, studying endurance and physical limits. Soon, inventors adapted the treadmill for early gyms and rehabilitation centers. Even homes experimented with early models, but the machine's mechanics remained constant. A moving platform under the feet, forcing motion, measuring effort, and the psychological effect lingered. Running in place is monotonous, repetitive, and exhausting, echoing the Victorian prisoner's experience, minus the coercion. Even modern users experience echoes of the past. The treadmill teaches discipline, persistence, and endurance, whether we like it or not. Why we keep using it? Why do we voluntarily use a device designed to punish? Because it works. The treadmill enforces effort, measures output, and gives instant feedback, qualities once used to enforce obedience, now marketed as health, fitness, and self-improvement. The irony is sharp. A machine that once wore down prisoners for society's moral benefit now promises personal gain. And every time we jog in place, we unwittingly participate in a centuries-old experiment in endurance and human control. Lessons from object history. The treadmill is a perfect example of object history. It illustrates how design carries morality. A tool once intended to enforce obedience can later be repurposed for science, health, or entertainment. It started as punishment, became scientific observation, then transformed into a consumer fitness device. Yet its core function, forcing humans to move in a controlled, measurable way, remains. Every object carries its history. Some, like the treadmill, remind us that discipline, control, and endurance can be packaged as entertainment or productivity, depending on who wields the machine. Modern reflections and irony. Step onto a treadmill today. You see your digital metrics, your calories burned, your steps counted. You feel the monotony, the strain, and perhaps the boredom. Now imagine that 2 centuries ago, humans endured the same motions under threat of punishment. The treadmill is still a mirror of society's relationship with effort, discipline, and control. It's technology as a behavioral tool, whether you're a Victorian prisoner or a modern runner. And if you ever complain about running in place, remember, your ancestors would have envied the cushioned belt, the digital readout, and the lack of a guard watching your every step. Closing irony, 1530 to 1630. The treadmill began as a punishment. It evolved into science. It became fitness, yet it remains a machine that measures, monitors, and challenges. Every treadmill session is a brush with history, a reminder of endurance, discipline, and social control packaged as self-improvement. So next time you step on a treadmill, ask yourself, are you exercising or are you walking in history? Because some objects are far stranger and deadlier than they appear. We've been running in place for centuries, literally. Victorian prisoners climbed for survival. Modern humans climb for vanity, fitness, or guilt-driven metrics. The treadmill shows how society repurposes tools. A punishment device becomes a scientific instrument, becomes a consumer product. It also reminds us that effort is a universal currency, and that sometimes history repeats itself in ways we voluntarily embrace. So yes, the treadmill is cynical, ironic, and slightly eerie. And your legs will remind you of that with every step.